So you've painted a piece of furniture, you sanded back the old finish and stained the top, but you're not sure exactly how you want to top coat it. Did you know that you could use our hemp seed oil to top coat over top of raw or stained wood? I bet you didn't. I've seen this question in some groups, and I thought it'd be cool to go ahead and finish this piece that I'm working on right now in the beautiful new siren song color with our hemp seed oil and just show you how it's done. And if that's something you're interested in, stay tuned here on Wise Owl Paint Party. Okay, so first thing you're gonna need is some hemp seed oil. And you can use any number of brushes, and you can actually use your hands to smear it down. That's another method, but today we're gonna use our 1.5 inch round or oval Wise Owl Premium brush. And then we have some blue shop towels. Pretty simple stuff. This is gonna be a really easy process. Ultimately, what you're doing is you're taking the hemp seed oil, you're brushing it into the wood surface. And this is gonna be our part one for using our hemp seed oil, and this is a stained surface. So with that, you need to ensure that your stain is dried and set. So if you're using an oil-based stain or any kind of stain really, you wanna ensure that it's dried and set. So what does that mean? That means you need to give it at least 3-4 days, and where it just feels there's no tackiness, you know the stain has absorbed the wood, you're not gonna have any problems with the hemp oil going on. That's the big thing, especially with a stained surface. But this has been sitting for a while. It was time to top coat it, and I thought, why not do a video with hemp seed oil, because this is a really beautiful top that I think the hemp seed oil is just gonna deepen the color and go really well with the black walnut wax I did over Siren Song below, which is amazing. And I thought I'd share it with you guys. So we have our hemp seed oil, looks just like this. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna pour it directly onto the surface, and we're gonna use our brush to spread it around. Now with hemp seed oil, it's gonna absorb into the wood, and the wood's gonna be thirsty is the word you might hear with hemp seed oil. Depending on how thirsty the wood is would be depending upon how much hemp seed oil gets into the wood. And you'll know because we're gonna brush it on and we're gonna wipe it off, and where the spots still look wet, we know we're gonna need to buff later, and this is where the spots look dry, we know we might need to add more later. And ultimately what we're doing is we're adding enough oil to the surface that absorbs all the way in, that nothing else can penetrate it. And that's why the hemp seed oil is such a great protectant of woods and finishes and all that kind of thing, because it's gonna absorb all the hemp seed oil, and it's not gonna be able to absorb a stain or anything else because it's gonna block it from coming out. And I'm gonna show you exactly what it's gonna look like. So we're gonna pour this on. I can already see where it's hitting. It's already changing the color of the wood. Wow, yeah, look at that. So again, we're just gonna pour it on and brush it in really liberally. You wanna make sure there's a lot on there so it has the opportunity to soak down in. So we're just gonna continue to brush, and it just, it's awesome. Hopefully you can see it on camera. Really brings out the stain color that I used for this. Well, I actually used a couple because the initial one I wasn't really too happy with. Then I added another until I got exactly where I wanted. So we're just gonna brush it in and allow it to soak up all the hemp oil into the wood. And again, the thirsty is the word that you might hear a lot with hemp oil. So your wood is thirsty. If it has not been top coated to seal it, like if you've not used a varnish or 1 hour enamel clear coat, it's gonna be thirsty, or meaning it's gonna be able to absorb the hemp oil. And depending on how thirsty it is will be dependent on how much you're gonna need to put on. So we're gonna do 1 coat, just like this. I'm gonna leave it for, I'd say, probably about a half hour or so. Let it kind of soak into the wood a little bit. And what I'll do is I'm gonna brush this on right now, and I'm gonna wait that half hour, and I'm gonna come back and kind of show you what I'm talking about. But we're gonna let it soak into the wood, and we're gonna wipe back any of the excess And then we're gonna come back, let's say tomorrow, probably about 24 hours, and see if any spots just still look dry or thirsty. And then we'll add another application. Because ultimately we're trying to put as much hemp oil into the fibers of the wood as possible, so it gives us a nice solid protectant to not allow anything else to absorb into it. So if I was to spill something on the surface, I wouldn't have to worry about it staining the wood because there's nowhere for it to go. It's just gonna have to sit on top of the hemp oil, and then from there, you can simply wipe it off. And that's what's great about hemp oil. So we're just gonna brush it all the way around. I know the front, I gotta go back and get where we're gonna leave this nice, and hopefully you can see how reflectant it is, because it's a good solid coat. I'm not doing just a teeny tiny little thin coat. I'm doing enough where if I come back in a half hour from now, I'm really gonna be able to tell how much was absorbed or how much was not. All right. Look at that. How cool is that, right? That's all there is to it. So hemp seed oil is a great option for top coating, well, anything really, but for this instance, we're talking about stained wood for this part. So you can top coat it. You just have to ensure you give your stain enough time to set. So I'd say usually, I don't know, 3 to 4 days, just to ensure that it's not tacky to the touch. And then you can apply your hemp seed oil. And again, we just did a good liberal layer of it where it looks like there's a big wet all the way across. And I'm gonna get the sides here in a second. And then we let it set. I'm gonna let it set for about a half hour. I'm gonna come back and we'll wipe off the excess. So we're gonna go through that process too in about a half hour from now. And then we'll just go through each step together so you can kind of see what it looked like on my wood that I used that is actually stained wood. And this will be a part 1 of part 2 series. I'll do another piece that's actually raw wood so you can kind of see the difference in any little intricacies that you need to know about. But that's it for now. Okay, so it's been about 30, 45 minutes-ish, somewhere in there. And as you saw in the previous little clip I did, I just kind of showed you how glossy that one coat was, just so you could kind of see what I'm talking about. And for this is actually a hardwood veneer, so there's not much depth for it to go down into. So as you can see, it's still fairly wet, which is just fine, because ultimately I went through a couple times through that half hour, 40 minutes, and just looked for a couple of spots where it started to dry a little bit, and I just went over top of it. So that's what you want to do. Through that half hour, 40 minutes, you want to come back, take a look, continue to brush over the top, and then, make sure it stays wet for the longest amount of time possible. So there's a couple of spots, but for the most part, it sat pretty even, almost where we were. So we know based on that the veneer, the stain, there wasn't much room for anything else to get down in there, which is fine, because ultimately we're just putting the hemp seed oil in there to stop it, basically giving it protection, to stop anything else from going down into the wood. If we happen to spill something or drop something or put a cup there, it's gonna stop that. So now we're putting that final layer of, okay, protected, good to go. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna wipe back what's left. So what I have is the shop towels. You can use a microfiber lint-free cloth as well. And we're just gonna wipe this back. And it is so pretty. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but using hemp seed oil is amazing, and it looks just beautiful. So it's gonna give you that beautiful matte finish and going to give you great protection. Now, question I get asked often about hemp oil is, do I need to reapply it? And the answer is yes. Now, what does that mean for, if you happen to paint a piece and sell it? You want to ensure that your client knows that you use hemp seed oil on the top, and just kind of maybe giving them a small instructional something on how to reapply. Now, when do you need to reapply? Ultimately, that's going to be very dependent upon the wood, the piece, how well it's soaked. It could last a couple of years. It could last 6 months. It just depends on, like I said, the wood type. If it's real wood, like this is veneer, so there wasn't much room left for the hemp seed oil to seep into because of the stain. But if you just did raw wood, it's going to soak down in pretty good. So you might need to just keep an eye out on it and look for dry spots. That's ultimately what you're going to be looking for. Because once you see those dry spots, you know that hemp seed oil is starting to get thirsty, as the word is. It'll get thirsty, the wood will, and it'll basically be asking for another coat. All right, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to wipe this back and we're going to let it dry for, let's say, 3 to 4 days is what we want to do. Let it dry, let all what's left on here soak into the wood, and then we're going to come back and we're going to buff off any spots that we see. Now, if I come back in 3 to 4 days and it's uneven, so I see where it looks this beautiful matte wood finish, but there's a spot over there where it looks thirsty still, then we're going to need to reapply. And you could just reapply in that one area, or you could do it all over, depending on however you want to do it. And then you're going to go through that same process. Leave it for half hour, 45 minutes, wipe off, and then come back 3 to 4 days later and ensure that it got soaked all the way in. Where stained wood is a little bit different. So we're just going to stick with that topic for today. But with the stained wood, it already has something that's absorbed into it. So the hemp oil is not going to really absorb as much as it would a raw wood. And we'll go over that in our part 2 of the series. But for this, you can see that one coat really, sat there, didn't go too far, absorbed enough in that it's going to be a great top coat, protectant for everything that have coming. So we're going to come back, like I said, in 3 days. I'm going to buff it with you and just kind of give you a walk through what that looks like. And then we'll be done with this part of the video. So it's really beautiful. That's how your hemp seed oil will turn out. Looks amazing over stained wood. All right, so we've waited those 3 days and I've let it dry. And as you can see, it looks beautiful. That sheen is kind of gone away. It has that matte, not shiny look to it, I guess, or however you want to call it. But hemp oil, our salves, all of those will leave a beautiful matte look to your finish, whether you're using it on wood or on paint or however you want. But this is what you end up with. Pretty awesome, right? So ultimately, after those 3 days, you just want to buff out any spots that you see that may still have a little bit of the hemp oil coming to the surface. You buff that out, let it dry a little bit more, and you just continue that until there's no more wet spots. Usually though, after that 3 days, if you look and there's any wet spots at all, you buff that out and that'll be the end of it. But you might have a spot here or there where you put a little bit too much and then you'll see it continue to come. You just want to continue to buff until that stops altogether. Now, the opposite is true as well. If after those 3 days, if you're looking in a corner or in a spot and it looks thirsty still, then you want to ensure that you add more hemp oil. But the normal procedure will be exactly as we've gone through today. So once we get to this 3rd day, you come through, you buff it, and you should be done. That is a normal procedure if you're doing it where you've got the hemp oil to seep down in, to soak properly. You don't have to continue to add more. It'll just look as beautiful as this does. So we're just gonna go over top of it with a lint-free microfiber cloth and just kind of buff. And this is all you're gonna do to finish it up. Go around the front and around the sides, and you got a nice clean rag. It's nice and dry. It doesn't feel wet. It doesn't feel tacky. It actually feels amazing. And this is what you're going to get using our hemp seed oil over a stained wood. Beautiful, right? So just giving you another option, another way to top coat. Let's say you painted a piece and you stripped the wood, wanted to do a wood top. Another way that you could top coat it. And there you have it, another way to top coat stained wood using our hemp seed oil. This is a part 1 of a part 2 series. We're going to do the second part going over raw wood with our hemp seed oil just to show you the different nuances involved. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you get notified when that part 2 comes out. And if you want to try some hemp seed oil today, contact your local Wise Owl retailer. I'll have the link below on how to find yours. And as always, happy painting.